Story number 1. The loading dock at the end of Meridian Road. I backed my rig into the loading dock at the end of Meridian Road at 2:33 a.m. because the GPS said it was a rest area, and by the time I understood what I'd actually parked at, the dock had already started unloading my trailer. March 11, 2025. I was hauling perishables from Atlanta to Nashville. Time-sensitive load. Refrigerated trailer. Dairy products and produce. 18-hour window from loading to delivery. I was 4 hours ahead of schedule. My GPS showed a rest area 3 miles off I-65. Meridian Road. I was exhausted. Needed 2 hours. The extra time allowed for a rest stop without compromising delivery. Meridian Road was a 2-lane county road. No streetlights. March darkness. I drove 3 miles into increasing rural emptiness. The GPS confident, directing left turns, right turns. Then a straight quarter mile that ended at a loading dock. Industrial. Large. Several bays. The kind of dock attached to a massive warehouse. But the warehouse was dark. No lights. No vehicles. No activity. The dock itself was empty except for the dock plates and leveling mechanisms of a serious commercial receiving facility. The GPS showed this as my destination. Marked as rest area, facilities area. I should have reversed immediately. Gotten back on I-65. Found a proper truck stop. But I was tired. The dock was empty. The lot was large enough for my rig. I parked in Bay 3, the most central. Shut down my engine. Left my reefer unit running. Locked my cab. I fell asleep within minutes. I woke at 4:17 a.m. to sounds from my trailer. Not my reefer unit. Different sounds. The sounds of a trailer being unloaded. The clang of dock equipment engaging. The hydraulic hiss of a leveling dock plate. The sound of movement at my trailer's rear doors. I checked my mirrors. 2 figures in the dock bay. Not wearing high visibility gear. Not wearing anything that suggested legitimate dock workers. Dark clothing. Moving with practiced efficiency. Opening my trailer. I hit my horn. 1 long blast. They didn't react. Didn't look up. Didn't stop. Continued working like I hadn't made a sound. Like I wasn't there. I called the police. I-65 County Dispatch. Reported the address. Meridian Road, sir. Can you be more specific? End of Meridian Road. There's a warehouse. A loading dock. I'm in Bay 3. People are accessing my trailer. Sir, Meridian Road is a half-mile county road. Dead end and a farm property. There's no warehouse. No loading dock. I'm looking at it. I'm parked in it. Can you give me the GPS coordinates? I gave them. Dispatch was quiet for a moment. Sir, those coordinates are an open field. No structure. No road access. I drove here. On a road. To a dock. Stay on the line. I'm sending a unit. I stayed on the line. Watched the figures continue working at my trailer. They were methodical. Moving boxes out. Organized. Professional. Like workers who've done this thousands of times. Except they were stealing my perishables from a dock that apparently didn't exist at coordinates that were apparently an open field. I tried to get a better look. My cab lights flicked on my exterior lighting. The figures continued working. I couldn't see their faces clearly. They kept their backs to me. Working inward. Deeper into my trailer. I climbed down from my cab. Got about 10 feet from the dock. The cold hit me. Not March cold. Different cold. Different cold. The particular chill of a large refrigerated receiving facility. Except the warehouse was dark and apparently empty. Where was the cold coming from? The figures kept working. I was 10 feet from them. Hey, stop. That's my load. No reaction. Like I was speaking from very far away. Like there was distance between us that the physical 10 feet didn't account for. I grabbed one by the shoulder. My hand passed through. No resistance. No contact. Warmth instead of cold where my hand passed through their jacket. Like reaching through a projection into emptiness beyond. They were ghosts. Or projections. Or recordings. 2 dock workers working a shift that didn't exist in a facility. That didn't exist, doing a job that might have been real at some other time. Some previous time when this dock had actually been here. Had actually been operational. Had actually received perishable loads in the pre-dawn hours. What are you taking? I asked. Not expecting an answer. One of them spoke. First time. Without turning, voice-like sound heard through water. Thick, slightly wrong. Load manifests as 47 pallets. We're processing intake. Shouldn't take more than 40 minutes. This is my load. I'm delivering to Nashville. Load manifests as this dock. Meridian Road Facility. Consignee, Hargrove Cold Storage. Hargrove Cold Storage doesn't exist here. This facility doesn't exist. Facility's been here since '78. 47 years continuous operation. This facility closed. Whatever this was, it's gone now. You're in the past. They kept working, kept unloading, moving boxes from my trailer into the dark warehouse interior. But when I looked closely at the boxes they moved, they seemed to become less present as they passed through the dock entrance. Faded. Like objects entering a less real zone. Like my actual cargo was being processed into a layer where it no longer fully existed. The police arrived at 4:52 a.m. Their lights lit up the dock area. Both officers got out, looked around. One walked the perimeter, came back. "Sir, I don't see any activity." The two workers, at the dock. "The dock is empty." "What are they taking?" I pointed. The officers couldn't see them, but I still could. Still watching them work. Still processing my load into whatever ghost facility this was. My trailer. My cargo is being. One officer went to my trailer, looked in. Trailer looks intact. I don't see any missing cargo. I went to the trailer. He was right. Everything appeared present. Full load, nothing visibly missing. But something felt different about the boxes. Lighter somehow. Less substantial. Less real. I drove to Nashville. Made my delivery at 7 a.m. The receiving crew unloaded my trailer. Every box present. Every item counted. But the produce was wrong. The dairy was wrong. Not spoiled. Not damaged. Just wrong. The receiving manager examined them. "This isn't what we ordered. It's your shipment. I loaded it in Atlanta. This produce is from 1978 varieties. These dairy brands don't exist anymore. These product codes aren't in our system." He was right. I checked. The boxes were correct. The weights were correct. But the contents were from a different era. Had been processed through the Hargrove Cold Storage Facility. Had been replaced with equivalent product from 47 years ago. The ghost facility had processed my load. Had swapped current product for period-accurate equivalent. Had treated my 2025 produce load like it was a 1978 intake, and processed it accordingly. Nashville refused the delivery. Atlanta was confused about what had happened to their product. The insurance company was baffled by a claim that essentially described temporal contamination of a perishable load. I went back to Meridian Road in daylight, found the end of the road, an open field exactly as dispatch had said. No dock, no warehouse, no evidence of any structure, but the grass was worn, in a pattern, the pattern of a loading dock bay. 3 bays wide, the shape of a large warehouse floor imprinted in the earth. Like something had stood there for 47 years and left its footprint in the ground even after its substance was gone. I'd parked in the ghost of a loading dock, had backed my trailer into a receiving facility that operated in a layer of 1978, had had my load processed by dock workers who'd been dead for decades and didn't know it. Some wrong spots are wrong because of what's there now. Some are wrong because of what was there before. And the difference matters to your cargo, even when it doesn't matter to your GPS. Story number 2, the overlook at exit 88. The parking area at exit 88 overlook had 16 spaces, and I was the only truck. And by 3 a.m. I was the only vehicle in a lot that had somehow become impossible to leave. April 2nd, 2025. Northbound I-77 in West Virginia. Mountain driving. Night shift. I've been over the same Ridgeline route dozens of times. The exit 88 overlook was a known stop. Truckers used it regularly. Good sight lines, wide spaces, safe parking. I pulled in at 1:47 a.m. The lot was empty. Fine. Middle of the week. Middle of the night. I backed into space 11. Engine off. Reefer humming. Fell asleep within 15 minutes. Woke at 2:52 a.m. Strange waking. The kind of waking that feels purposeful, externally caused, like something had decided it was time for me to be awake. The lot was still empty. 16 spaces. My truck in space? 11. Nothing else. Except the fence was wrong. The Overlook's perimeter was a standard guardrail fence. Deal. Reflective markers. But now it looked different. Taller. More substantial. And the gap that served as the entrance and exit, the gap through which I'd driven to park here, was closed. A solid section of fence where the gap had been. My entrance route sealed. I started my engine, pulled forward toward where the exit had been. The fence was solid. Real. I touched it with my front bumper gently. It didn't move. Didn't bend. A permanent installation that hadn't existed an hour ago. I tried the other potential exits. The Overlook had no other vehicle access. Just the one gap. Now closed. I was parked in a sealed lot. I got out, walked to the fence, examined it. No hinges, no mechanisms, not a gate that had closed. A section of fence that had appeared, seamlessly integrated with the existing fence, as if it had always been there. My phone showed no signal, not unusual in West Virginia mountains. But I'd had signal when I parked. Good signal. 3 bars, now nothing. The loss was complete. Total. Like signal blocking, not like no tower absence. I tried my CB. Static on all channels except 19. On 19 I heard voices. Trucker chatter. But wrong. Like CB conversations from a different frequency range. Different era. The voices discussing road conditions on routes that didn't match current highway designations. Talking about truck stops that had closed decades ago. Discussing weather patterns for dates in the past. I broke in. Breaker 19, this is Ironside. Parked at exit 88, overlook on I-77. Fence sealed my exit. Request assistance. Static. Then a voice. Ironside, did you say exit 88? Affirmative. Exit 88 overlook. Northbound I-77. Long pause. Son, there's no overlook at exit 88. Hasn't been since they removed it in 91. Used to be there. Rest area, overlook. They closed it due to incidents. Paved it over. It's here. I drove into it an hour ago. If you're there, you're somewhere you shouldn't be. That lot was closed for incidents. Multiple trucker disappearances between 83 and 91. 7 drivers parked there and never continued their trips. Never found. What happened to them, nobody knows. They'd radio in their position. Sometimes other drivers would see them parked there, but come morning, the trucks would be gone. The trucks always turned up eventually. Different highways, different states, different times, but the drivers were never in them. The voices on the CB faded. Static resumed. I sat in my cab, looked at the sealed fence, at the empty lot, at the darkness beyond the guardrail where the overlook view would be. Mountain valley. Black. No lights below. Too dark for a populated valley. At 3:17 a.m., other trucks appeared, not driving in, just present. 5 of them in spaces 1 to 5, dark, silent, not running, not idling, just parked. Like they'd always been there, and I just hadn't seen them. I got out again, walked to the nearest truck, banged on the door. No response. Tried the handle. Locked. Looked in the window. Empty cab. But the cab looked lived in. Personal items. A photo on the sun visor. A coffee mug in the holder. Someone's regular truck. Missing its driver. The plates were old. 1987 registration. The truck was the right age, but well maintained. Preserved. Like it had been parked here in 87 and hadn't aged since. I checked all 5 trucks. All same. Different models. The prow. Biting the early 90s. All empty, all with registration from their era. All preserved in the particular moment of their parking. Space 12 was empty. Space 13. Space 14. Space 14 held something different. Not a truck. A motorcycle. Old. Covered in road dust. A chain across the back wheel suggesting the rider had planned to return. Had been intending to continue their trip. Had locked their bike. and expected to unlock it. Space 16 was different too. A car, not a truck. A sedan from the mid-80s. Personal vehicle. Out of place in a truck overlook, but parked with the same permanence, same preservation, same absence of driver. Whatever took drivers from exit 88 overlook between 83 and 91 had taken everyone who parked here. Truck drivers, motorcyclists, a regular driver who'd stopped for some reason. And now I was here. In a sealed lot with 7 preserved vehicles and no drivers and no exit. The CB crackled at 4 a.m. The same voice from before. Ironside, you still there? Still here. Those trucks you're probably seeing. Those are the others. The ones from before. The lot keeps them. Preserves them. Takes the drivers and keeps the vehicles as proof. As a record. Where do the drivers go? Somewhere else. The overlook is a transfer point. Something uses it to move drivers from one place to another. Nobody knows where. Drivers have been returned occasionally. Showed up in other states. Other countries. Disoriented. No memory of the time between parking and reappearing. Years sometimes. Decades. How do I avoid being transferred? Stay in your cab. Don't exit the vehicle. The transfer only happens outside the cab. The lot can seal exits. Can prevent driving out. But it can't take you from inside your own vehicle. That's a boundary it respects. Has always respected. Stay in your cab. Wait for dawn. At dawn the fence comes down. Always does. Has since they paved over the physical overlook. In physical reality, the lot is gone, so it can't maintain physical reality for long. Dawn brings reality back. The lot fades. You can drive out. How do you know all this? Because I parked at exit 88 and 89, and I drove out at dawn. And I've been warning truckers about it ever since. I stayed in my cab. Did not exit. For 2.5 hours. Watched the preserved trucks. Watched the empty lot. Watched the sealed fence. At 4:57 a.m., first light started at the ridgelines, the mountains becoming visible. The valley below showing its actual populated appearance. Lights and houses and roads becoming visible. At 5:03 a.m., the fence gap returned. Just prison again. Open. Normal. Like it had never closed. I drove out. Didn't look in my mirrors at the preserved trucks in their spaces. Didn't check if they were still there. Merged onto I-77 northbound. Kept driving. At the next truck stop, 50 miles north, I bought coffee. Talked to a driver at the next pump. You know exit 88 overlooks southbound? On I-77, that overlook was removed in the 90s. Northbound. There's a parking lot there. Looked like a standard overlook. He looked at me. Friend, there hasn't been anything in exit 88 northbound since before I started driving. 1991 at the latest. There's nothing there. I've driven that route 1,000 times. I parked there at 1:47 a.m. If you parked at exit 88 in the middle of the night, you're lucky to be here. That's one of the spots. The spots you don't park at night. How many spots are there? He looked at me steadily. More than you'd think. Drivers know some of them. Word gets around. Exit 88. Mile marker 44 on I-90 in Montana. The pull-off at the Welcome to Kansas sign. The rest stop that shows up on GPS on the Nevada state line. Spots where the lot seals. Spots where the lot takes drivers. Where you park and don't continue. Different mechanisms. Same outcome. You park in the wrong spot and you become part of the spots collection. I drove north. Made my delivery. Drove back south on I-77. Past exit 88 going northbound. Nothing there. Empty roadside. No lot. No fence. No overlook. Just guardrail and the mountain falling away below it. But in the right light, at the right angle, I could see indentations in the gravel shoulder. 16 rectangular shapes, the ghosts of 16 parking spaces. All occupied 7 trucks, 1 motorcycle, 1 motorcycle. The personal vehicles of 8 people who'd parked in the wrong spot and become part of the collection. And space 11. My space, still showing the impression of my tires in the gravel from last night. One empty space in the lot that preferred to be full. Exit 88 Overlook is still looking for someone to fill it. Don't park there. Not at night. Not if you want to keep driving. Story number 3. The diner's reserve space. The large vehicle parking behind Carver's Diner had a reserve space with my truck's exact dimensions painted on the asphalt. And when I parked in it, the inside of the diner showed me exactly how I was going to die. May 4th, 2025. I was hauling machine parts from Kansas City to St. Louis on US 50. Carver's Diner was a 40-year institution. Third generation. Good pie. Better coffee. Open 24 hours. I stopped there twice a month. I pulled into the rear lot at 8:47 p.m. 3 other trucks in the lot. I picked my usual spot. Space near the utility fence. Easy exit angle. But tonight a space I'd never noticed was marked. Near the back. Angled specifically for a longer rig. The painted lines were new. Fresh white. The space was sized exactly for my truck. Not approximately. Exactly. The painted dimensions matched my rig's length, width, turning radius to within inches, like it had been designed for my specific vehicle. I didn't park there, chose my usual spot, went inside, got coffee and pie, sat at the counter. My waitress was a woman named Donna. I'd known her for 3 years. New parking space in the back lot, I said. Painted this afternoon. Interesting story, actually. The owner had a dream. Says in the dream, a truck pulls into that space, and the driver comes inside and orders coffee and dies. She said it casually, like an odd anecdote about someone else's dream, not with warning or gravity. What kind of dream? Detailed. He woke up and painted the space to match the truck from the dream. Said he wanted to see if the truck would show up. She refilled my coffee. Like I said, interesting story. I finished my coffee. Paid. Walked out to the lot. Looked at the painted space. Exactly my truck's dimensions. My usual spot was occupied now. Another truck had taken it while I was inside. The only viable space for my rig's turning radius was the painted one. I parked in it. My truck fit perfectly, not just adequately, with the precision of something custom made, like pulling into a mold. I went back inside, got a second cup of coffee, sat at the counter again. Donna looked at me. You moved your truck? Had to. My other space got taken. She looked at the window, at the back lot, at where my truck was now parked, then back at me with an expression that had moved from casual to concerned. You're in the space. I know, my truck fits perfectly in it. The owner's dream. The driver who parks in that space. He dies inside, in the diner. After ordering coffee. I've already ordered coffee. I know. We looked at each other for a moment. I checked my body. Normal, no pain, no symptoms. Just the slight fatigue of driving. Nothing that felt like imminent death. What did he die of? In the dream? Heart attack? Sudden. No warning. He just finished his coffee. I looked at my cup, still half full. If the dream followed a sequence. If the death occurred after the coffee was finished. I had some time. Is the owner here? Donna called him from the kitchen. A man in his 60s. He came out. Looked at me. Looked out of my truck and the painted space. His face went through several transitions. I didn't think it would be tonight, he said. Tell me about the dream. He sat across from me. Told me in detail. The truck. My truck. Its exact configuration. The driver. My build. He didn't know my face in the dream. The driver was seen from behind and in profile. But the details he knew were too specific. Too accurate. In the dream, what time does he die? Around 9 p.m. He parked at 8:40 something. Come inside. Ordered coffee. Sat at the counter. Around 9 p.m., he started rubbing his chest. Then slumped forward. It was 8:58 p.m. I had approximately 2 minutes by his account. What happens if I leave? If I get up and walk out right now? He thought about it. In the dream, he never leaves. He dies at the counter. But the dream shows what happens, not necessarily what has to happen. Has to happen versus will happen. What's your read? I dreamed it one time, 4 days ago. But it felt fixed, like memory rather than possibility. If I leave this stool and go outside, right now, then either I was wrong, or the thing follows you, or the timeline adjusts. I stood up, put money on the counter, walked to the door. My chest felt normal. My heart felt normal. Nothing that suggested the attack was imminent. I opened the door. Cold night air. My truck in the lot, in the perfect space. My chest tightened. Sudden. Significant. Not pain, but pressure. The kind of chest pressure that makes you stop walking and pay attention. I stopped, pressed my hand to my sternum. The pressure intensified. I walked back inside, sat back on my stool. The pressure eased. I looked at Donna. What does he do when he starts rubbing his chest? In the dream. What happens after the slump? Does anyone help? Does he survive? She looked at the owner. He was pale. I only dreamed up to the slump. I woke up then. You don't know if he dies or just loses consciousness. No. And you don't know if help arrives. There were other people in the diner. In the dream, they noticed. Then someone calls 911. And maybe the guy survives. Maybe. I called my doctor from the diner's phone, described the chest pressure. He told me to get to an ER immediately, not to drive. Call an ambulance. I called an ambulance. Donna stayed with me. The owner stood by the door, watching the lot, like he expected the truck to be gone when the ambulance arrived, like he expected the dream to complete differently now that I was aware of it. The ambulance arrived at 9:14 p.m., 14 minutes past the time in the dream. The paramedics assessed me, found irregular heart rhythm, possible early cardiac event, treated me on site, transported me to a St. Louis hospital. Mild heart attack, caught early, manageable. Treatment began immediately. I was stable and discharged 4 days later. The owner of Carver's Diner visited me in the hospital the next day. You were supposed to die, he said. Not unkindly. Factually, the dream said I'd slump forward at 9 p.m. I slumped forward in the ambulance at 9 p.m. Dream was accurate, but accurate about the event, not about the outcome. The parking space, it drew you in, like it was part of it. My usual spot got taken. I had to park somewhere. I painted the space because I dreamed it. What if painting it was part of making it happen? What if my painting the space is what ensured you'd use it? What if I caused it by trying to document it? I didn't have an answer. Neither did he. I went back to Carver's 3 weeks later. The painted space was gone. Paved over. New asphalt. No trace of the dimensions. No evidence it had been there. My usual spot was empty. I parked there, went inside, ordered coffee and pie, sat at the counter. Donna refilled my cup without asking. How are you feeling? She asked. Good, heart's behaving. You going to park in the lot here again? I'm here now. After what happened, after the space. I looked out the window, at the lot, at the blank asphalt where the painted space had been. The space is gone. The warning is gone. The event happened. The dream completed. I survived. What if there's another dream? What if he paints another space? I thought about it. Then I park somewhere else. Or I check my chest on the way in. Or I carry my heart medication. Or I accept that some spots know things about you that you don't. Donna refilled my coffee a third time. The spot knew I was going to have a heart attack, I said, and it pulled me in so it could happen in a place where I did help. In a place with witnesses. In a place close enough to a hospital that the ambulance made it in time. She looked at me. You think the spot saved you? I think if I had had the heart attack on the highway with no one around, I'd be dead. Instead, I had it in a diner, with a paramedic 2 miles away, with people who knew to call 911. The wrong spot was actually the right spot. Yeah. Some wrong spots are wrong for reasons that turn out to be right. Some spaces pull you in, not to harm you but to position you. Some parking spots know more about your immediate future than you do. And some diner owners have very accurate dreams. I still stop at Carver's twice a month. I still park in my usual spot when it's available. I still order coffee and pie. And I still check the lot for freshly painted spaces, just in case the dreams are running ahead of me again. Story number 4. The field off Cano, Road 9. I parked in an empty field off County Road 9 because I was 2 hours over my limit and the field looked flat and safe. And by morning 17 other trucks had parked around mine and I didn't recognize any of the drivers. June 3rd, 2025. Westbound on US 34 through Iowa. I was over my driving hours, significantly. My logbook was going to show a violation regardless. I needed to stop. Now, not at 5 miles. Now, County Road 9 was gravel. I turned off, drove half a mile, found a wide, flat field on the right. Gate open, looked agricultural, fallow, nobody home. I pulled in, parked along the fence line. Far enough from the road, enough space for my rig. I was asleep by 11 p.m. I woke at 5:47 a.m. 17 trucks surrounded mine. Different makes, different models, different eras, some old, some new, all parked in the field in organized rows, not randomly, deliberately positioned, like a truck meet, like a scheduled gathering, like everyone had agreed to be here at a specific time and had arrived during the hours I was unconscious. I counted 17, plus mine, 18 trucks total, in a field that had held 1 truck when I fell asleep. The gate I'd driven through was still open. The road visible from here. Anybody could have driven in after me. I got out. It was cold. Iowa, June morning. Corn country smell. Birds. Normal. I walked the rows of trucks. All engines off. All dark. I knocked on doors. Called out. No responses. I tried handles. Most locked. A few open. I looked inside the open cabs. Empty. No drivers present. But all the cabs were occupied in the way lived-in spaces are occupied. Personal items, logbooks, gear, real trucks belonging to real drivers, just currently driverless. I examined the logbooks in the unlocked cabs, real logs, with real names, real routes, real records. Drivers who existed. I recognized one name, Jimmy Cartwright, a driver I'd met twice at truck stops in Nebraska. Good guy. Drove for a cattle company. Jimmy Cartwright's log showed his last entry, June 2nd, the day before. He'd parked somewhere in Iowa for mandatory rest. His last position noted was near US 34. If Jimmy's truck was here, Jimmy had parked here, or near here, and Jimmy was not in his truck. I called the number in his log. Emergency contact section. His wife answered, confused. It was 6 a.m. Is Jimmy there? I asked. He's on the road, Iowa somewhere. Why? His truck is parked in a field near County Road 9. He's not in it. Silence. Then, he called me last night. Said he was pulling over to rest. Said he was in a field. He was fine. When was this? Maybe 11 p.m. He was tired. He didn't call back. I thought he was sleeping. How many times have you called him since? 3 times this morning. No answer. I walked back through the truck rows. 18 trucks. 18 missing drivers. All parked overnight. All present as vehicles. All absent as people. My phone showed 7:30 a.m. now. I'd been walking and investigating for almost 2 hours. My truck was still where I'd parked it. My cab looked normal. Personal items intact. Logbook, undisturbed. But something was wrong with my memory of the night. I'd fallen asleep at 11. I'd woken at 5:47. That was normal. 6 hours. But it felt longer. The night felt like it had contained more than 6 hours. Like something had happened within those hours that I wasn't accessing. Like my memory of the night had a gap. Not missing memories. More like memories that were present, but inaccessible. Seals behind something. What had happened while I slept? What had happened to 17 other drivers whose trucks now surrounded mine? A truck on the far end of the field started its engine. I ran toward it. The truck was backing out, moving toward the gate. I waved, flagged it down. The driver stopped. Window came down. A woman, late 40s, normal looking, tired, same tired I felt. You were here overnight? I asked. Pulled in about 1 a.m. Had to rest. Where are the other drivers? The other 17 trucks. Nobody's in their cabs. She looked at the field. At the trucks. Others are around. They'll be back. Back from where? She looked at me with an expression that was hard to read. Recognition, maybe, or assessment. You don't remember? Remember what? The gathering. Every truck in this field gathered last night. The drivers. There was a gathering. What kind of gathering? The kind this field hosts. The reason this field is always open. Always available. Always exactly right for pulling off the road when you're over your limit. She studied me. You really don't remember? No. Most don't. First time you were there, you participated, but you don't retain it consciously the first time. Second time, some remember. Third time, most do. Participated in what? I can't explain it in a way that makes sense before you remember it, but I can tell you, it's not harmful. The drivers will come back. Their trucks are fine. You're fine. The field brings certain truckers together. Drivers who stop here are stopping for a reason beyond fatigue, even if they don't know the reason. What reason? Ask yourself. Why this field? Why not the truck stop 5 miles back? Why County Road 9? I didn't have an answer. I'd stopped because I was over limit. Because the field was available. Because it looked safe. But had I actually chosen it? Or had I been directed to it? The gathering, I said. Is it dangerous? No. The opposite. Think of it as maintenance. Truckers spend thousands of hours alone. The road takes something from you. The gathering gives some of it back. Reminds you of connection, community, other drivers. Over the next 30 minutes, drivers returned to their trucks, from different directions, from the field's far corners, from the tree line, from wherever they'd gone. 17 people. They nodded to each other with familiarity, with the comfort of people who'd spent a night together doing something worth doing. I didn't recognize any of them, but they looked at me with recognition, like they knew me. Jimmy Cartwright walked past me, headed for his truck. I stopped him. Jimmy. He looked at me, smiled. Good gathering. What happened? You'll remember next time. You were there. You know. Tell me. He considered. We drive alone. The road is solitary. The gathering is the opposite. For one night we're together, doing something I can't describe, something the road allows when we're all in the same place. When we're all parked together in a field that holds the right kind of space. He got in his truck. Your wife called you 3 times this morning. I'm not married. Not yet. He grinned, pulled out, drove toward the gate. Within 20 minutes, all 17 trucks had left. I was alone in the field again. The tire tracks in the soft ground were the only evidence. 18 sets of prints, from trucks that had all been here. I drove out, back to US 34, continued west. 3 weeks later, over my limit again, I pulled off on a county road in Nebraska. Found a field, open gate, flat ground, parked at 11 p.m. Woke at 5:47 a.m. surrounded by other trucks. This time I remembered some of it. Not clearly, not in detail, like remembering a dream. The impression rather than the content, but enough to understand that the field off County Road 9 had been the right spot. Not a wrong spot. The wrong category entirely. Not wrong, not dangerous, not mysterious in the way I'd feared. Just something the road offers truckers who know how to find it, who are tired enough, who are over their limit enough, who are dull over their limit enough. 18 trucks in a field at dawn. All of us exactly where we were supposed to be. Story number 5. The underpass on Mill Creek. I parked under the Mill Creek Bridge at midnight because the rain was too heavy to drive in, and by 1 a.m. I figured out that the space under the bridge was someone else's home, and they'd been waiting for me to arrive. July 8th, 2025. Northbound on Highway 141 in Missouri. Summer storm. The kind that comes up fast and turns to zero visibility in minutes. I'd been through worse, but not comfortably. I found shelter where shelter was. The Mill Creek Bridge was a standard concrete span. 2 lanes. The underside offered maybe 15 feet of clearance, enough for my rig if I angled correctly. A wide gravel apron on both sides. Used by maintenance vehicles, probably. Enough room to pull completely off the road and wait out the storm. I parked at 12:07 a.m., rain hammering the road. The underpass blocked most of it. My rig was protected. I turned on my hazards. Considered sleeping until the storm passed. The underpass didn't feel empty. I recognize that sensation now. The quality of occupied space. The density that exceeded what concrete and air should produce. Something was under this bridge. I shone my flashlight around. Standard underpass architecture. Concrete pillars, graffiti, debris in the corners, a shopping cart, cardboard. The evidence of temporary habitation. Someone had slept here. Probably multiple people over multiple occasions. The cardboard was layered, the graffiti was layered. Multiple generations of occupancy, but currently empty. Visible evidence of past habitation. No current occupant visible. Yet the space felt occupied. Actively. Currently. My CB crackled. Channel 19. Static. Then a voice. Driver under the bridge. Can you hear me? Copy that. Who's transmitting? I'm here. Under the bridge. Have been for a while. I don't see you. My flashlight shows the space is empty. I'm here. Not visible, the normal way, but present. Have been under this bridge since 1993. Bit of an accident. Truck went off the road. Ended up in the creek. I'm sorry. You're dead. Yes. Been here since 93. The bridge is my spot now. Mine and a few others. Others? 2 others. We cycle. Someone's always here. Watching the road. Making sure drivers in trouble have somewhere to shelter. You're watching out for drivers? We watch out for this stretch of 141. It's a bad stretch. Weather comes up fast. Road curves wrong. The bridge is the safest stop for 20 miles. We maintain it, make sure it stays available, make sure it stays safe. Ghost maintenance workers. Ghost truckers, more accurately. All 3 of us died on this highway. Between 89 and 98. Different accidents. Same stretch. The road kept us. Bridge keeps us. We keep the space ready. The storm was intensifying. I could hear it against the bridge deck above. Heavy. Sustained. The kind of storm that causes accidents. Were you expecting me? I asked. Not specifically, but we knew someone would come tonight. This storm. The timing. Someone would need the bridge. You said you've been waiting for me to arrive. I said I've been waiting for a driver to arrive. You're the driver who arrived. In the specific sense, yes. In the general sense, we wait for all of them. How many have sheltered here? Hundreds. Since 93. Drivers in storms. Drivers with mechanical problems. Drivers too tired for the road. They don't know we're here. Most don't. They just feel safe. Feel like the underpass is exactly what they needed. That's us, making the space feel right. I heard something then. Movement. Behind my truck. I checked my mirror. A figure, standing in the rain at the edge of the underpass, at the boundary between shelter and storm. Human-shaped, but wrong in the specific way I'd learned to recognize. Present but translucent. Visible but not solid. A trucker. Old gear, late 80s style. Standing in the rain as if he didn't feel it. Watching my truck. Watching over it. Is that you? I asked. That's Marcus. He likes standing watch in the rain. I'm the voice on the CB. I'm Wilson. The third is Terry. She handles vehicles with mechanical problems. Marcus handles weather. I handle communication. You've organized this. 32 years of practice. You develop a system. Why do you stay? Why not move on? Pause. Long pause. The rain intensified. This is our stretch. Our road. We knew it when we were alive. We drove it hundreds of times. We know its moods, its dangers, its timing. Moving on seems like abandonment, like leaving the road without guardians. And the road needs guardians on a stretch like this. I stayed under the bridge for 2 hours. The storm passed at 2:23 a.m. The road ahead was wet but passable. The visibility was back. Clear to go, I asked Wilson. Clear. Storm's east of you now. Road's fine until you hit the curve at mile marker 63. Wet leaves on the pavement. Take it slow. Thank you. Don't thank us. Just tell drivers about the bridge. When the weather's bad on 141. The underpass holds. There's always someone here. I pulled out. Into the clearing weather. In my mirror, the underpass retreated. Marcus stood where he'd stood the whole time. In the gravel. Watching me go. Making sure I made the turn. I slowed at mile marker 63. Wet leaves. Took it easy. The curve was exactly as Wilson described. I made it fine. I'd been back to the Mill Creek Bridge 4 times since July. Twice in storms. Twice just to acknowledge. To let Wilson know someone remembered. Knows they're there. Appreciates the guardianship. I still recognize your rig, Wilson said last time. Still parking in the wrong spot. I don't think it's the wrong spot if you're safe after. I think it's the right spot. Just the right spot that required some history to become right. I agreed with that. Some spots feel wrong until you understand their history. Until you understand what's there. Until you discover that the occupied feeling is protective rather than threatening. Mill Creek Bridge is someone's home. Has been since '93. Will be indefinitely. And if you're driving Highway 141, when the weather comes up fast, when the visibility drops, when the road gets dangerous, you know where to go. The underpass is there. The space is ready. Someone's watching. It's not the wrong spot. It never was. Story number 6, the Pier of 8 industrial lot. The gate was open, and the lot was empty, and the sign said nothing about private property. But by the time I found the signs, it was 4 a.m., and the cameras had been recording me for 3 hours. For something that wasn't a security system. August 14th, 2025. I was pulling a flatbed from Memphis to Louisville. Construction equipment. Steel beams. Heavy load. I'd been hunting for a safe flat lot for my rest break for 40 minutes. Weight restrictions and narrow shoulders had eliminated most options on this stretch of US 60. The industrial lot appeared on my right at 1:17 a.m. Large. Paved. No vehicles. Gate standing open. No visible signage at the entrance. I drove in. Found a flat section near the building. Parked. Checked my load straps. Everything tight. I settled in for my required break. I noticed the cameras at 2 a.m. only because one of them moved. Security cameras are stationary. Fixed angles. These were not. One camera, mounted on a pole 20 feet from my truck, rotated. Smoothly. Following me as I'd walked around my truck to check the load. It had been tracking my movements. I looked at the other cameras. 6 visible from my position. All with subtle motion. All oriented toward my truck. All tracking. The rotation was slow enough that I'd missed it. Dismissed it as static. Only the one camera's more pronounced movement had caught my eye. I shone my flashlight at the nearest camera. The lens caught the light. Reflected it. Standard camera optics. But the housing was wrong. Too organic. Too irregular. Not manufactured angles, but something more shaped. More evolved. I got back in my cab. Locked the door. The cameras continued their tracking, following my position even inside the cab. Somehow knowing where I was despite the cab walls. I looked at the building. Dark. Large. Industrial. No signage visible for my position. At 2 a.m., I decided to look for the building's identification. If I was trespassing, I wanted to know who I was trespassing against. I drove my rig slowly around the building's perimeter, looking for a name, an address, anything identifying. On the building's north face, I found signage. Not a company name, not an address. Something else. A series of symbols arranged in rows, not a language I recognized. Not mathematical notation or scientific symbols. Something that looked designed for reading but not designed for human reading. Symbols that felt intentional, communicative, but not communicating to me. Below the symbols, in small English text, a single line, Observation, Ative, Subjects are aware of observation. This is part of the study. I was a subject. Had been since I drove through the open gate. The cameras weren't security cameras. They were study cameras. Something was studying me, had been studying me for 40 minutes at that point, was actively noting my discovery of the observation. Was noting my note of my discovery. Recursively aware, I drove back to my original parking position. Stopped. Looked at the 6 tracking cameras. Hello, I said, out loud. To the cameras. To whatever was behind them. I can see you watching. No response. But the camera's movement changed, became more focused, more concentrated, all 6 oriented directly at my cab. Maximum attention. My CB crackled. Driver? Designation assigned. Subject 14. Your awareness has been logged. Most subjects don't identify the observation until they're preparing to leave. You identified it 2 hours early. This is notable. Subject 14. What are you studying? Trucker behavior in unstructured rest environments. Decision-making. Spatial awareness. Response to unfamiliar circumstances. Stress responses. Problem-solving. Methodology. You're studying truckers. We study all motorists who use this location for unauthorized rest. Truckers provide particularly rich data, long-haul experience, high stress tolerance, practical problem-solving, excellent spatial reasoning. Who's doing the study? We're not authorized to share institutional affiliation with subjects during the observation period. After the observation period. The observation period concludes when you leave the lot. Can I leave now? You may leave at any time. Participation is not coerced. The gate is open. Has always been open. But you chose me. Chose to leave the gate open, so I drive in. We provide conditions. Subjects make choices. You chose to drive in. You chose to park here. Every decision since arrival has been yours. The cameras followed me before I noticed them. You were studying me without my awareness or consent. Most human research involves some degree of observation before subject awareness. The open gate constitutes implicit consent to monitoring on private property. Our legal framework has been reviewed. By whom? By applicable review boards. You're not going to tell me what you are. We're not authorized to do so during observation. What happens to the data you collected? It contributes to a larger study of human behavior in ambiguous environments. Your specific responses will be compared to other subjects. Patterns extracted. Understanding developed. Understanding for what purpose? That also exceeds our authorization to share. I sat in silence for a moment. Looked at the cameras, at the building with its unreadable symbols, at the empty lot that had been left open specifically to attract subjects. Subject 14, I said. What number are you at? How many subjects have you studied here? This location is operated for 41 months. We have data from 917 subjects. 917 truckers who parked here. 917 motorists. Truckers represent approximately 60% of subjects. The location is selected for high trucker traffic, and none of them knew they were being studied. 412 subjects identified the observation before departure. 412 who identified it before their natural departure time. You're the first to identify it while still in an initial rest period. Subject 14 gets a special notation. Subject 14 demonstrates above average situational awareness. Yes, I started my engine. I'm leaving. The observation period will conclude upon exit. Thank you for your participation, Subject 14. Your data is valuable. My data is mine. You don't have consent to use it. Our legal framework, your legal framework doesn't cover this. Whatever you are, whatever institution you represent, this study doesn't have ethical approval for human subjects without consent. Silence. We will note your objection in the record. Note it clearly. I drove out. The gate was still open. I drove through, back onto US 60. The cameras tracked me until I was out of range. Following my departure with the same focused attention they'd given my arrival, I filed a report with the state police. Gave the address of the lot. They checked it, found a standard industrial facility. No unusual cameras, standard security equipment, no symbols on the north face of the building, nothing that matched my description. But they found one thing interesting. The property records showed the lot had changed ownership 41 months ago. The current owner was a holding company, with an address in a country that doesn't officially exist in standard geographic databases. I still drive US 60, still past the lot. The gate is always open. Different trucks parked there sometimes. Subject numbers accumulating. Data being collected. Subject 14's data is out there somewhere, in a study conducted by an institution with an address in a non-existent country, being compared to 916 others. Patterns extracted. Understanding developed. Understanding for purposes they weren't authorized to share. I parked in the wrong lot. Got watched by the wrong cameras. Became part of the study I didn't consent to, but I was the one who drove through the open gate, and that, apparently, was all the consent they needed. Story number 7. The last Space 8 Thunder Ridge. Thunder Ridge truck. Stop had 1 in 12 spaces, and I parked in the 1 in 12 because it was the only one available. And by morning, I understood that space was always available because no driver who'd parked in it had ever left. September 1st, 2025. Eastbound I-90 in South Dakota. I'd been driving since 5 a.m. It was 2 a.m. 21 hours. I was done. Thunder Ridge was the first truck stop with vacancy for 30 miles. I took the exit. The lot was packed. Every space full. Reefer units humming. Trucks sleeping. A full house. I drove the rows, looking, hoping. Space 112 was in the back corner, farthest from the building, against the lot's perimeter fence. A space that should have been the first taken large, flat, good angle, and was somehow the last empty. The line markings for Space 112 were different from the others. Same white paint, but somehow brighter, newer, like freshly painted. But I'd been told the lot had been here for 30 years. The markings should have been weathered. A driver was walking toward the building. I rolled down my window. "Hey, is that back corner space okay? 112? He stopped, looked at where I was pointing, looked at me. "Where are you heading?" "Columbus, Ohio. Load delivery day after tomorrow. Long way from here." "Yeah, I need a few hours." He was quiet for a moment. "That space always open?" "It's the only one available." "I know. It's always open. Has been for years. Most drivers won't use it. Why not?" "Story. Old one. Maybe true, maybe not. Drivers say the space takes people. That if you park in 112, you don't leave. Not on your own schedule. The truck leaves eventually, but not when you planned." "What does that mean?" "Drivers who've used 112. They get in, fall asleep, wake up somewhere else. Not in their cabs. Not at Thunder Ridge. Somewhere else. Their trucks are fine. Parked properly. But the driver woke up somewhere different. Somewhere on their route, but days later. With no memory of the gap. Teleportation. I don't know what to call it. 3 drivers I know of personally. One woke up in a rest area in Ohio. Day and a half later than when he'd parked. His truck was at the delivery dock in Columbus already. Unloaded. Signed off. Like he'd made the delivery in his sleep, without being there. Did the delivery get made? Perfectly. On time. His logbook showed continuous driving, with no parking gaps. But he didn't remember any of it. Not the drive, not the delivery, not 112 hours. 36 hours, day and a half. 36 hours he didn't experience. Delivered perfectly, but without being present for it. I lived at Space 1 in 12. The bright markings. The empty space in the full lot. The perimeter fence. The distance from the building. The delivery was made correctly. Better than correctly. Ahead of schedule. 0 complaints. Like the space did his job for him while he slept. "What's your name?" I asked. "Robert." "Bobby Crane. I drive I-90 twice a week. I've been watching that space for 3 years. You've never used it?" "No. But some nights I want to. When I'm exhausted, when the load is stressful, when I just want to wake up in my destination with everything done correctly." He looked at the space. "Seems like a trade. Your presence for your delivery. The space does the trip. You get the rest, but you lose the journey. That doesn't sound terrible. Depends what you think driving is for. If it's just a means to an end, the space does your job better than you do, and gives you rest. If the driving is the job, the journey is the point, the hours and miles are what you are, then giving them to the space is giving the space yourself. He walked away toward the building, left me with the decision. Space 112 waited. Bright lines. Perfect vacancy. I looked at my logbook. Columbus in 36 hours. Comfortable timing with rest. I was ahead of schedule. I could afford to sleep here and drive there. Normal. Present. Conscious. Or I could park in 112. Wake up in Ohio. Delivery made. Rest complete. Hours of exhausting highway erased from my memory. Given to the space. Traded for arrival. I parked in space 111. A truck had angled slightly wrong. There was just enough room. I squeezed in. Not comfortable. But mine. I fell asleep at 2:20 a.m. Woke at 8:15 a.m. Woke at 8:15 a.m. Rested. Present. Conscious. At Thunder Ridge. Still at Thunder Ridge. My delivery was still ahead of me. My drive still to complete. My hours still mine. Space 112 was still empty. Bright lines. Perfect vacancy. A truck was pulling in as I watched. New driver. Exhausted. Looking for the only available space. I got out. Went to his window. Don't take that space. He looked at me. At the space. Why not? Take time to find another, or wait for one to open. 112 is wrong. How is it wrong? It's just a space. Talk to Bobby Crane. He knows the story. I don't know any Bobby Crane. I just need a few hours. I'm over my limit. I understood his position exactly. I'd been in it 6 hours ago. The space will do your delivery for you, I said, but you won't be there when it happens. You'll wake up somewhere else on your route. Days ahead. Job done. But you won't remember it. He looked at me. The space. Me. That sounds fine. I'm exhausted. I just need to get to Minneapolis. You won't be there to see Minneapolis. You'll be somewhere else. The space does the trip, but you're not in it. I don't care about seeing Minneapolis. I care about my delivery. The delivery will be made without you. Then what's the problem? I didn't have a good answer. Bobby Crane's words. If driving is just means to an end, if delivery is the only point, then the space was a service. Efficient, reliable. Your logbook, I said. It'll show continuous driving you don't remember. Your company. Your insurance. What happens if there's an incident during those 36 hours you weren't conscious? You're technically responsible. He thought about that. Has there ever been an incident? I don't know. Bobby Crane know? Ask him. The driver looked at the space. At his logbook. At his exhausted hands on his steering wheel. At the distance still between him and Minneapolis. He pulled into Space 112. I walked to the building. Got coffee. When I came back out, 40 minutes later, his truck was gone. Space 112 was empty and bright and waiting for the next driver. I don't know if he woke up in Minneapolis. Don't know if his delivery was made perfectly and on time. Don't know what he was doing during the 36 hours he wasn't driving. I just know Space 112 was empty when I left. As it always is. As it always will be. 112 spaces at Thunder Ridge. 111 for parking. One for something else entirely. One that offers a trade. Your presence for your destination. Your journey for your rest. The sign at the Thunder Ridge entrance says 112 spaces available. But only 111 are for staying. The last one is for going, faster than you can understand, and without you. I stopped too late to warn that driver. Or maybe I warned him exactly when he needed to hear it and he chose anyway, because sometimes the wrong spot is the right trade. And sometimes the only thing standing between a driver and Space 112 is one more cup of coffee, and the choice to keep the journey yours, even when you're exhausted, even when the space is waiting, even when the bright lines say there's room. There's always room in 112 for everyone except the driver.